agree with the fundamental premises of this meeting. Ethically, we shall always support attempts for peace. Peace is an ethical project, and we shouldn't have any dilemma about it. No moral dilemma about freedom, or about sovereignty, or about territorial integrity or self-determination, or about condemnation of aggression. No moral dilemma about working for peace. No moral dilemma about human rights violations or crimes against humanity. It's about principles, and it's about survival. It is about our work in order to preserve the rule of law internationally. The law of the strongest cannot be accepted. The peace always has to be just. Russia is a great country with a great history, great culture. Tolstoy, Solzhenitsyn, Sakharov, Marina Tsvetaeva. So Russia, to honor their greatness, has to stop sucking the blood of this war. It has been already enough for the whole world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the Prime Minister of Cabo Verde, José Ulises Correia e Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excellencies, this summit is a timely initiative. It's timely because it's always important to seek best paths to peace. Cabo Verde firmly supports the international order based on the UN Charter and international law. Cabo Verde defends respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states. It's based on these principles that from the outset we condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And we maintain our position consistently. This war caused death and destruction. This war is a threat to global security and the stability of the world economy. The least developed countries are those that suffer most from the impacts of the global economic and food security crisis. The escalation of inflation and the disruption of food supply chains caused by the war are examples of these impacts. The breakdown of the Partnership for Development caused by the war effort is another impact that could worsen. Therefore, the war in Ukraine is not indifferent to any country in the world. Due to the values at stake and the consequence of the war, it is important to fight for peace. We hope that this summit will be a strong step towards a lasting and just peace. Together, we are stronger. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I'm now pleased to invite the President of Latvia, Edgar Rinkēvičs, to take the floor.
Thank you very much, and first of all, thank you, Switzerland and Ukraine, for all the hard work you have done to convene this summit. I do believe that this is the first step in a very long way towards the peace, but I think that the spirit that we have heard and seen yesterday and today is the right one. I do believe also that we as the international community must work out a comprehensive roadmap to the peace, but at least two elements are critical here. First, Russia must withdraw all its armed forces from Ukrainians' territory, and Ukraine's territorial integrity must be restored within its internationally recognized borders. We have discussed a lot about the food security, nuclear safety, humanitarian aspects of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. I think that those three elements actually affect all of us, and I do believe that it is our responsibility to address them in the most serious way. I had my own experience being in Ukraine when the war started on 21st of February 2022. I saw the horror of the first hours. I saw people fleeing, and I think that those memories will be with me throughout the whole life. But I also believe that we are seeing, and many of colleagues have mentioned here, children who have been abducted by Russian Federation, the children who, when they visit our countries, when they have a couple of nights without air alerts, without bombing or drones overflying, they are regaining their childhood. And I think that it is very important that we continue, while we are talking about the peace, addressing the real issues also on humanitarian side. Also, one thing that I want to particularly mention is I'm coming from the country, Latvia, that has history of the Soviet occupation and colonialism. What we see in Ukraine today is what many of countries here present have seen also in the past. Russia is the country that is launching colonial war, and I think that it is also very important that we look at this war from this aspect. Finally, I do believe that we need to work further, and this summit is the first step when now we have the world's community's support to work out the comprehensive roadmap and to continue in the very good spirit that we have seen all here also in the future. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you so much. And finally, it's my pleasure to hand over the floor to the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
President Humbert, President Zelensky, thank you for asking Canada to close these interventions from the floor. And thank you for bringing us all together for this important and successful summit. It is a summit on peace in Ukraine, but it is not just about Ukraine. It is about whether or not the global community will stand up for international law and the rules-based order that protects us all. Canada will always be a strong voice for democracy, freedom, and peace, and standing up for international law and the rules-based order. This is why we keep supporting Ukraine. Our work all together during this summit has helped shape a joint vision of a peace framework based on the UN Charter and international law. We will continue to uphold the fundamental principles embedded in the UN Charter. Before coming to Switzerland, I was in Italy for the G7, where we took significant actions to keep supporting Ukraine, primarily with the major G7 loans to help pay for the damage caused by Russia. When a just and sustainable peace comes, we will all be there to help Ukraine rebuild. What's good about buildings is that they can be rebuilt. But the people who lost their lives, the families destroyed, they won't be able to bring them back. That's the most painful consequence of war, the human suffering. As Volodymyr pointed out last night, today in many, many countries around the world, it's Father's Day. This evening, many of us will be home with our kids. Not everyone is so lucky. Ukraine, thousands of kids have been taken from their families, their home, their communities. Ukraine says that close to 20,000 children were taken by Russia. We've recently seen reports of Ukrainian children being listed on Russian adoption websites. They're being forced to forget their identity as Ukrainians. I think we all know the consequence of removing children from their language, their culture, their families, their identity. It's a form of colonialism that the world cannot abide by. Earlier today, I co-chaired a working session on the human dimension of this war to work towards bringing kids home to their families. And Canada's announcing $15 million in funding to support the reintegration of displaced children returning to Ukraine through improved child protection services and family-based care options. Ukrainian kids belong in their schools, their playgrounds, and their communities. This funding will also improve access to justice for survivors of war crimes, among other measures. This illegal war by Russia needs to end. Humanitarian law and the UN Charter must be respected. We have to keep sending strong signals that our solidarity with Ukraine is as strong as ever and will not fade. Russian aggression has to stop. It won't be easy, but as a dad, I hope that we can all get to a just and sustainable peace in the next year so that Ukrainian kids and families can celebrate Father's Day together, but also that people and families everywhere around the world are able to know that international law and the rules-based order will be defended and upheld by all countries in the world. This is how we protect each other. This is how we protect future generations. This is how we keep the world on the right track. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, glory to Ukraine, glory to its heroes.